there is something happening right now that you cannot fully explain. You feel it in the quiet moments, when the noise of the day finally fades and you are left alone with yourself. You feel it in the tension between two truths that seem impossible to hold at the same time. On one side, there is exhaustion, real, deep, bone-level exhaustion. Not the kind that comes from one hard week or one difficult season, but the kind that has been building for years, layer by layer, like sediment at the bottom of a river. You have been carrying something heavy for a very long time, and some mornings you wake up already tired before the day has even asked anything of you. And yet, there is something else. Something underneath the exhaustion that refuses to go quiet. A pull, a knowing. A sense that you were not placed on this earth to simply endure, to get through, to survive until the next small reprieve. Even on the days when you feel the smallest, even on the nights when the silence in the room feels louder than anything anyone has ever said to you, there is a voice beneath the voice that keeps whispering the same impossible thing. You were made for more than this. That is the contradiction you are living inside right now. You are tired, and you are called. You feel invisible, and you are chosen. You have wondered if you were forgotten, and yet heaven has not looked away from you for a single moment. The angels are not in shock because your life looks impressive from the outside. They are in shock because they can see what is written over you. They can see the assignment sealed in your name before you drew your first breath. And they cannot believe that you are still standing at the edge of it, not yet knowing, not yet walking in the fullness of what was always meant to be yours. This is not a coincidence that you are here, not an accident of the algorithm, not a random scroll that landed you in this place. Something greater than chance brought you to this moment. And if you will stay with this message, if you will not close the door before it fully opens, you are going to understand something about yourself that changes the way you see everything that has happened to you and everything that is coming. The Word of God speaks directly to the paradox you are living. In the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 9, the Lord says these words, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Read that again slowly, because the world has told you the opposite your entire life. The world told you that weakness disqualifies you. That confusion means you are not ready. That the fog you have been walking through is evidence that something is wrong with you. But God says that His power, the same power that spoke light into darkness and breathed life into dust, reaches its most perfect expression, not in your strength, but in your weakness. You are not too broken to be chosen. You are not too tired to be used. You are not too far behind to be placed at the front of what He is doing. This is the season where the very thing that made you feel disqualified becomes the doorway through which your purpose walks in. Heaven has pressed pause on the ordinary rhythm of your day to deliver something to you directly. Because the ordinary version of your life is not, and the angels watching over you know it even when you have forgotten. So, before we go any further, I want you to do something right now. If you feel in your spirit that this message found you for a reason, if something in your chest recognized the truth in those words from 2 Corinthians, then type 222 in the comments right now. That number is not random. In the spirit of what God is doing, 222 is a declaration that you are standing in alignment with divine timing, that you are open, that you are ready to receive what this moment is carrying for you. Type it now and watch what happens in the community of people responding around you, because you are not alone in this room, not even close. And if this message is already speaking to something real in your life, hit the like button right now. Whop. That one simple act tells heaven and this community that you received this word, that it landed somewhere true inside you, and it helps carry this message into the hands of every other chosen one who is still searching for it tonight. If this message is already speaking to something real in your life, share it right now with someone who has been in that same contradiction, tired but called, weak but anointed, overlooked but chosen. The people in your circle who are quietly carrying that same tension need to hear this. Hit the share button and put this in front of them today. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, now is the moment. Every message released here is not content for entertainment. It is a word released with intention for people who were never meant to live an average life. Subscribe so that you do not miss what is coming, because what God is building through this space is only getting started. And the next word may be the one that breaks something open in your life completely. There is also a link in the description and in the pinned comment below. That link is for those of you who feel led to sow into this work, to partner with what is being built here for the sake of every chosen one who finds their way to this message. Every seed you plant carries weight in the spirit, and nothing given from a willing heart goes unnoticed by the one who sees everything. Stay with this. The contradiction you feel right now, the tension between your weakness and your calling, is not a problem to be solved. It is the exact starting place where God does His most unbelievable work. And what comes next is going to show you exactly why the angels are watching you with their breath held. You were not built the same way as everyone else. That is not a poetic phrase designed to make you feel better about a hard season. That is a statement rooted in something that science itself has begun to confirm. And once you understand what researchers have discovered, you will never look at your own mind the same way again. Here is what the science says. Inside the human brain, there are multiple frequencies of electrical activity running at any given moment. These are called brain waves, and they operate at different speeds depending on what state the brain is in. Most people, going through an ordinary day in an ordinary life, are locked into beta waves, the frequency of stress, reaction, and surface-level thinking. Beta is the frequency of survival. It is the frequency of people who were never told that something greater was available to them. But then there is another frequency, a deeper one that researchers have found in a very specific group of people, children whose minds are still fully open, creative geniuses who seem to think in a different dimension, and people who carry what can only be described as an unusual spiritual sensitivity to the world around them. That frequency is called theta, operating between 4 and 8 cycles per second. And layered above it is something even more remarkable, a high-performance state called gamma. The brainwave pattern associated with breakthrough moments, sudden clarity, and what researchers have begun to call the genius state. The chosen ones carry this frequency, not as a metaphor, as a measurable, documented, neurological reality. The very qualities that made you feel different, the depth of your feeling, the way your mind moves differently than the people around you. The spiritual awareness you have carried since childhood that you could never quite explain. These are not random personality traits. They are signatures of a brain designed to operate at a frequency most people never access. And that frequency has been systematically suppressed. This is where the work of one specific researcher becomes impossible to ignore. His name is Dr. James Rivers, a neuroscientist with over 30 years of dedicated research into the mechanics of the human brain, trained within the environment of MIT, and connected to research programs that reached into organizations like NASA. Dr. Rivers spent decades studying a single question: Why do some people seem to access a different quality of thinking, a different quality of living, while others remain locked in cycles of struggle and limitation, regardless of how hard they try? What he found, after what has been described as thousands of days of research, was both scientifically groundbreaking and, for those of us who understand the spiritual dimension, entirely consistent with what heaven has always said about the people it sets apart. The human brain was not designed to operate in the diminished state that most adults are living in. There is a specific neurological pathway, a set of frequencies centered on theta and gamma activity that was designed to be the default state of your mind, not a special achievement reserved for monks and geniuses. The default, the original setting. But modern life, with its constant noise, its artificial stimulation, its relentless demand for reaction over reflection, has essentially trained the brain out of its natural frequency. Like an instrument that has been slowly, imperceptibly knocked out of tune over decades, your mind has drifted from the frequency it was born to operate in. And you have felt that drift. You have felt it as mental fog, as the sense that your best thinking is somehow just out of reach, as the exhaustion of pushing harder and harder and not arriving at the place you know you were meant to reach. What Dr. Rivers developed, after all of those years of research, is something called the Genius Wave. It is a 7-minute audio program that uses a precisely calibrated combination of binaural beats and isochronic tones, sound frequencies designed to guide your brain back into its natural theta and gamma state. The mechanism is called brainwave entrainment, and the principle behind it is straightforward. Your brain has an innate ability to synchronize its own electrical activity with external frequencies. When you expose it to the right sound pattern for the right amount of time, the brain follows. It realigns. It returns to what it was always designed to be. 7 minutes. That is all it takes. Not an hour of meditation, not years of training, not a complicated practice that requires a specific environment or a disciplined spiritual routine. 7 minutes of listening with a pair of headphones, and your brain begins the process of returning to its original frequency. And if you have been following this message from the beginning, you already know that 7 minutes is not a coincidence. Silence, stillness, 7 minutes of allowing something to move in you rather than forcing your way through. Heaven knew the principle before any laboratory confirmed it. Now let me tell you about 2 people who crossed this threshold before you. There was a woman, a mother of 3, who had spent years feeling like her mind was working against her. She described it as trying to think through wet concrete. She had tried everything available to her, supplements, sleep routines, journaling, and nothing moved the fog. She found the Genius Wave through a link shared in a community much like this one. After 11 days of the 7-minute practice, she said something shifted so completely that her teenage daughter asked her what had changed. Not in a vague way, specifically. Her daughter said, "Mom, you seem like you again." 3 weeks later, she had solved a financial problem that had been sitting unresolved for 2 years. And there was a man in his mid-40s who had walked away from his calling. He had gifts, real visible gifts that people around him recognized, but years of closed doors had made him doubt whether those gifts were ever meant to be activated. He started the Genius Wave without much expectation. By the end of the first week, he was sleeping deeply for the first time in years. By the end of the second week, he had taken the first step toward the very thing he had put down. He wrote simply, "It is." Like something unlocked a door I had forgotten was there. These are not exceptional cases. They are representative of the more than 19,000 people who have used this tool and returned with reports of specific, measurable, real-world change, focus that returned, creativity that opened, emotional steadiness that replaced chronic anxiety, sleep that became restorative again, decisions that became clear rather than paralyzing. The refund rate across all of those thousands of users sits below 4%. That number tells you something that no marketing language ever could. Now, I want to speak directly to what some of you are thinking right now, because it is a valid thought and it deserves an honest response. You are thinking that $39 is not nothing, especially if this season has been financially tight, especially if you have spent money before on things that promised change and did not deliver it. That hesitation is not a sign of weak faith. It is a sign of wisdom earned through experience. I hear it and I respect it. But let me ask you something. What is the cost of another year inside the fog? What is the cost of another 12 months of your gifts sitting dormant? Of your mind running below the frequency it was designed for? Of you knowing, deep in that place that never stops knowing, that you were built for something that has not yet happened? The Genius Wave normally carries a price of $49. Through the link in the pinned comment below, it is available to you today for $39. That is the investment, and it is backed by a 90-day money-back guarantee, 100%, no complicated process. If you go through the full experience and something has not shifted, you get every dollar returned. The only risk is staying where you are. Before you go to that link, I need to say something clearly and directly. There are counterfeit versions of this product circulating through unofficial channels, unauthorized copies being sold or distributed through sources that have no connection to Dr. Rivers or his research. These versions are not calibrated correctly. They will not produce the results described here, and in some cases the audio frequencies have been altered in ways that are simply ineffective. The only legitimate access point is the link in the pinned comment below this video. That is the only place, not a third-party site, not a reseller, the pinned comment. Go there and only there. And I need to tell you that the price of $39 available through that link is not permanent. The current access window at this price is genuinely limited. When it closes, the standard price returns, and there is no guarantee of when or whether this specific offer will come back. The door is open right now. The frequency is being offered right now. The only question is whether you will step through it while it is in front of you. The ones who are about to change are the ones who move when the moment arrives, not after it has passed. You have been different your entire life, and you have not always known what to do with that. There were moments in childhood when you felt things that other children around you did not seem to feel. You walked into a room and sensed the emotional temperature before a single word was spoken. You picked up on things beneath the surface of conversations, the unspoken grief behind a smile, the tension hiding inside a laugh, the loneliness sitting quietly inside someone who looked perfectly fine to everyone else. You felt the weight of the world at an age when most children were not yet aware that weight existed, and nobody handed you a language for what that was. Nobody sat down beside you and said, "What you are carrying is not a burden. It is a gift that has not yet been named." So you learned to manage it. You learned to turn the sensitivity down, or at least to appear as though you had. You built structures around yourself that let you function in spaces that were not designed for someone wired the way you are. You found ways to survive in environments built for a different frequency, and you became, in many ways, remarkably good at it. You learned to speak the language of the ordinary world while something in you remained fundamentally untranslatable. People liked you, or they were unsettled by you, and sometimes both at once. Because there is something in your presence that people cannot quite categorize, and that which cannot be categorized tends to either draw people in or make them keep their distance. What you experienced as social confusion or emotional overwhelm, or simply the exhausting effort of being you in a world that did not quite fit, what you carried all of that time as a question mark about your own nature, was actually the signature of a brain operating with a different architecture. Not a damaged architecture, not a deficient one, a higher one. The theta frequency that researchers like Dr. James Rivers spent decades documenting is not merely a brainwave pattern associated with creativity and deep learning. It is the frequency at which empathy operates at its deepest level. It is the frequency at which intuition functions not as a guess, but as a form of perception. It is the state in which the human mind can receive information that bypasses the logical filtering layers of ordinary waking consciousness and arrives whole, fully formed, already true. Children live there naturally. That is why they learn languages at a speed that adults cannot replicate. That is why their imaginations produce solutions that logic alone would never reach. That is why a child can sometimes say something in a single sentence that cuts through years of adult confusion and lands at the center of a truth everyone else was circling around. They are not smarter in the conventional sense. They are simply closer to the frequency. They have not yet been pulled out of it by the relentless conditioning of a world that rewards beta state performance and calls it maturity. And then there is the gamma frequency, the state that sits above theta like a crown above a throne. Gamma waves, oscillating above 30 cycles per second, have been recorded in the brains of people during moments that researchers struggled to categorize using conventional scientific language. The monk who suddenly enters a state of profound knowing, the mathematician who sees the solution to a problem that has resisted years of effort, seeing it all at once, completely, the way you might see a landscape from a mountain, rather than navigating it one step at a time from below. The artist who produces work in a single session that surpasses everything they created in the decade before it. The entrepreneur who, in a single hour of clarity, restructures a failing idea into something that transforms their entire life. These are gamma moments, and they are not accidents. They are not the exclusive property of rare personalities or specially gifted individuals. They are what happens when the brain returns to the frequency it was built to operate in. The book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 7, carries a line that the wisest man who ever lived placed at the beginning of his instruction about the mind. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get insight. Solomon was not speaking about information. He was not describing the accumulation of facts or the mastery of techniques. He was pointing at something that operates at a different level entirely, a quality of perception that goes beyond what the ordinary thinking mind can manufacture on its own. Wisdom, in the Hebrew understanding, was not a product of effort. It was a gift that arrived when the inner condition of a person was aligned with the source of all knowing. It was what flowed when the channel was clear. You were built to be that kind of channel, not in some distant future version of yourself that you have to earn your way into through years of discipline and performance. Now, as you are, the channel was placed in you before the world began its long, patient project of narrowing you down. Think about the moments in your life when you have touched that frequency without knowing what it was. The moment a solution arrived, not through calculation, but through something that felt more like reception. The moment you knew something about a situation or a person with a certainty that had no logical basis and turned out to be precisely correct. the creative surge that arrived unexpectedly and produced something that surprised even you, as though the work was moving through you rather than from you. The moment in which something that had been knotted for months suddenly released, and you understood something about your own life that all your thinking had failed to reach. Those were not flukes. Those were not lucky accidents or the random firing of an overstimulated nervous system. Those were moments when your brain, for whatever reason, slipped back into its natural frequency. When the noise dropped below a certain threshold and the deeper signal came through. When the theta and gamma, states that were always available to you, managed to surface through the layers of conditioning and stress and chronic beta state overstimulation that the modern world has built around every human mind. The tragedy is not that you have been operating below your frequency. The tragedy is that you were never told this was happening. Nobody sat across from you and explained that the fog you were experiencing, the sense that your thinking was somehow muted or your potential somehow just out of reach, had a neurological basis that could be understood and addressed. You were told to try harder, to push more, to be more disciplined, more consistent, more resilient. And you tried all of those things, and some of them helped in limited ways, but none of them reached the root of what was actually happening inside the architecture of your own mind. Because the root was never a character issue. It was never a faith issue. It was never evidence that you were not chosen, or not capable, or not deserving of the breakthrough you have been reaching toward for so long. The root was frequency. The root was the gap between the state your brain was designed to inhabit and the state that years of accumulated stress, artificial stimulation, emotional weight, and constant noise had pushed it into. And here is what makes this moment different from every other moment. You have sat with this information in some form, in a sermon, in a book, in a conversation that touched the edges of this truth without quite arriving at its center. You are not simply being told that something better is possible. You are being shown the specific, documented, neurologically sound pathway back to the frequency that is already yours. It was never taken from you permanently. It was obscured. It was buried under layers that were never supposed to be permanent. And the path back is not years long. It is not reserved for people with more resources or more discipline or more favorable circumstances than yours. It is 7 minutes. 7 minutes of a precisely calibrated sound frequency, built on decades of research and tested across tens of thousands of lives, that begins the process of guiding your brain back to the state it was designed to operate in. 7 minutes that your body already knows how to respond to, because the response is not learned. It is remembered. Your brain does not have to be taught how to enter theta and gamma. It has to be reminded. It has to be given the external signal that cuts through the accumulated interference and says to every cell in your nervous system, this is the way home. And home, for a mind like yours, is not a small place. It is not a modest improvement on what you have already experienced. Home, for a brain built at the frequency you carry, is a state of thinking, creating, perceiving, and living that the people around you will not have a category for, because they have never seen you operating at the level you were designed for. Not yet. What you are about to understand is not comfortable, but it is necessary, and it is the kind of truth that once you see it clearly, reframes everything that has felt confusing or defeating about the seasons you have walked through. You were not simply unlucky. You were not simply undisciplined. You were not simply born into difficult circumstances that happened to work against you. There has been a systematic, persistent, and in many ways invisible pressure working against the very frequency you carry. And until you name it for what it is, you will keep trying to solve a spiritual and neurological problem with tools that were never designed to reach it. Think about the environment that most human beings now live inside. From the moment you wake, before your eyes have fully adjusted to the light, there is a screen, there is a notification, there is a demand from the outside world that your attention report for duty immediately. The news cycle, built not to inform but to agitate, pulls your nervous system into a state of low-grade alarm before you have had a single quiet moment to hear your own thoughts. Social media, engineered by some of the most sophisticated behavioral scientists alive, is designed at a neurological level to keep your brain locked in a pattern of comparison, reaction, and craving for the next stimulus. Entertainment that never quite satisfies, but always offers another option. Noise that is never completely absent. A culture that has quietly redefined rest as consumption of more content rather than the genuine stillness in which your deeper mind was designed to breathe. None of this happened by accident, and none of it is neutral in its effect on the human brain. Every one of these forces pushes your nervous system deeper into beta state, the high frequency, surface level, stress-driven mode of operation that keeps you reactive, keeps you consuming, and keeps you disconnected from the theta and gamma frequencies where your true capacity lives. The world as it is currently constructed is, whether intentionally or simply through the logic of its own design, extraordinarily effective at keeping chosen ones operating below the level they were built for. And here is what makes it particularly insidious. It does not feel like suppression. It feels like normal. It feels like just the way life is. The fog feels like your personal failing rather than the predictable result of a brain that has been chronically denied the conditions it needs to function at its designed frequency. The creative block feels like evidence that you are not as gifted as you hoped, rather than the natural consequence of a mind that has been kept in survival mode for so long that it has forgotten what it feels like to soar. The spiritual dryness feels like distance from God, when in reality the channel was never closed. It was simply buried under so many layers of noise that the signal could not get through. This is why the enemy does not always show up dramatically. This is why spiritual warfare does not always look like a frontal assault. Sometimes it looks like distraction. Sometimes it looks like a notification. Sometimes it looks like one more hour of scrolling that leaves you feeling simultaneously overstimulated and strangely empty. The most effective way to neutralize a chosen one is not to attack them directly. It is to keep them too busy, too noisy, and too mentally fragmented to ever drop into the frequency where their calling becomes clear and their gifts become activated. The book of 1 Kings, chapter 19, verse 12, records a moment that speaks directly to this pattern. The prophet Elijah, one of the most spiritually powerful figures in all of Scripture, had just come through a season of such crushing exhaustion and defeat that he asked God to take his life. He was burned out, he was hidden, he was done, and in that moment, God did not send a spectacular sign first. There was wind that tore the mountains, there was an earthquake, there was fire, and the text says carefully and deliberately that God was not in any of those things. And then, after all of that overwhelming any external force, there was what the Scripture calls a still small voice. The original Hebrew carries the meaning of a sound of gentle stillness, a thin silence, a frequency so quiet that it could only be heard when everything louder had passed. Your calling speaks in that register. Your deepest gifts operate in that frequency. And the world has been flooding the channel with everything louder for so long that you have had to strain to hear what was always there, waiting, consistent, patient, refusing to stop speaking even when you could not find it through the noise. This is what 7 minutes of genuine frequency restoration does at a level deeper than the neurological. Yes, it guides your brain back into theta and gamma through the precise calibration of binaural beats and isochronic tones developed through Dr. James Rivers' decades of research. But what happens when those frequencies reawaken is not only a scientific event. It is a restoration of the channel through which the still, small voice has always been trying to reach you. It is the quieting of every frequency that was never supposed to dominate your inner life. It is the return to the native state of a mind that was designed from before you took your first breath, to hear clearly and to move purposefully in response to what it heard. The 19,000 people and more who have crossed this threshold were not all in ideal circumstances when they began. Most of them were exactly where you may find yourself right now. Tired, uncertain, aware that something was supposed to be different about their lives, but no longer sure they had the capacity to reach it. What shifted was not their circumstances first. What shifted was the frequency of their own thinking. And from that internal shift, everything external began to reorganize around the new signal they were broadcasting. The link to the Genius Wave is in the pinned comment below this video and in the description. $39. 90 days of protection if it does not deliver what it promises. And a pathway back to the frequency that was placed in you before the world ever had the chance to obscure it. Now, before we move forward, I want to pause and speak to you directly about this channel and what it represents. This channel does not earn revenue from YouTube. There are no ads running behind these messages, no monetization structure supporting what is built here. And yet this work continues, because the chosen ones who find their way here deserve a space that was not built around profit, but around purpose. Every message released here is crafted with the specific intention of reaching people who are in exactly the season you are in right now. People who are tired but called, unclear but anointed, underestimated but destined. If this content has landed somewhere true in you today, if something in this message has named what you have been carrying or opened something that had been closed, and you feel led to support this work continuing, there is a donate link in the pinned comment below and in the description of this video. This channel is sustained entirely by people who believe in what is being built here, and every contribution, no matter how small, is genuinely felt and genuinely valued. It is not just financial support. It is a declaration that this work matters, that these messages should keep reaching the people who need them. And if you are not in a season where giving is possible right now, that is completely understood and completely honored. Your presence here is already a gift. Leaving a comment below, even just a few words about where this message found you, helps carry this content to other chosen ones who are still searching for it. Sharing this video with one person in your circle who you know is in a hard season costs nothing and may change everything for them. And if you have not yet subscribed, please do that now, so that the next message finds you the moment it is released, because what is coming will build on what you are receiving today in ways that will matter deeply. Like this video if it has spoken to you. That one small act tells the platform to place this message in front of more people who need it, and it tells us that what we are building here is landing where it was meant to land. You are not consuming content right now. You are receiving something. There is a difference, and part of you already knows it. There is a moment that happens in the life of every chosen one where the weight of what they carry begins to feel less like a calling and more like a curse. You know this moment. You may be living inside it right now. It is the moment where you look at the distance between where you are and where you know you were meant to be, and instead of feeling the pull of destiny, you feel the ache of the gap. Instead of faith rising, something quieter and more dangerous rises in its place. A question. Not the kind of question that seeks an answer, but the kind that seeps into the foundations of everything you thought you knew about yourself and about the God who made you. The question sounds like this: what if I was wrong about myself? That question is not a sign of weakness. It is not evidence that your faith is insufficient or that your calling was never real. It is actually the most reliable indicator that you are in the middle of something, not at the end of it. The chosen ones in Scripture did not arrive at their assignments feeling fully prepared and spiritually confident. They arrived feeling exactly what you feel right now. And the pattern of how God met them that place is so consistent across thousands of years of recorded history that it can no longer be dismissed as coincidence. It is the pattern. It is the way the story always moves before it breaks open into something that no human explanation can contain. Consider Moses, not the Moses standing at the edge of the Red Sea with his staff raised and the waters dividing before him. Not the Moses descending from the mountain with his face so radiant that people could not look at him directly. The Moses sitting in the desert of Midian, 40 years after fleeing Egypt, tending sheep that were not his own, in a land where nobody knew his name or his history, or the fact that he had once walked the corridors of the most powerful empire on earth. 40 years. That is not a brief detour. That is a lifetime within a lifetime. That is long enough for a man to stop expecting anything different. Long enough for the dream to calcify into a memory, and the memory to fade into something that no longer quite hurts because it has been so thoroughly buried. And it was precisely there, in that specific desert, in that specific season of ordinariness and apparent uselessness, that God spoke from a burning bush and said, "I have seen, I have heard, I know, and I am sending you." God did not wait for Moses to feel ready. God did not wait for Moses to work through his insecurity, resolve his speech impediment, process his complicated feelings about his own identity, or build himself into the kind of person who looked like a deliverer. God spoke into the middle of the ordinary, the mundane, the seemingly wasted, and called it the threshold of the extraordinary. What looked from the outside like 40 years of nothing was actually 40 years of preparation that only made sense the moment the assignment arrived. Your desert is not a mistake. Your waiting place is not a wasteland. The seasons that have felt the most empty, the most invisible, the most disconnected from anything that looked like purpose, have been doing something in you that your best efforts at self-improvement could never have accomplished. They have been stripping away the versions of yourself that were performing for the approval of the wrong audience. They have been quieting the voice of what the world said you should be, so that the voice of what you were actually made for could finally be heard above the noise. The book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 31 says this, "But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." The Hebrew word translated as wait here carries a meaning that is richer and more active than simple passivity. It means to bind together, to be intertwined with, to remain in a state of expectant tension toward the source of what is coming. It is not the waiting of someone who has given up and is simply enduring time. It is the waiting of someone who knows that what is being prepared is worth every moment of the process, and who remains oriented toward it, even when it cannot yet be seen. That is the posture of the chosen one in the desert season. Not passive resignation, not spiritual performance that tries to manufacture breakthrough through the force of religious activity, but a deep-rooted, quiet orientation toward the one who made you and who has never, not for a single moment in any season of your life, regardless of how it felt, stopped working on your behalf. Think about the eagle for a moment, because the image Isaiah chose is not random. Eagles do not flap their wings to rise to great altitudes. They do something that looks, from a distance, almost passive. They find the thermal current, the column of warm air rising from the earth, and they extend their wings and allow the current to carry them upward. The effort is not in the climbing. The effort is in finding the current and trusting it enough to stop flapping. The chosen ones who soar are not the ones who exhaust themselves trying to manufacture altitude through sheer personal effort. They are the ones who learned, often through seasons of enforced stillness, how to find the current and rest their weight on something greater than their own striving. You have been flapping for a long time. You have been trying to generate through effort what was always meant to come through alignment. And the exhaustion you carry, the bone-deep tiredness that has been with you through this season, is not the exhaustion of someone who has failed. It is the exhaustion of someone who has been working against a design. Someone who was built to soar on a current and has instead been trying to climb by force. The chosen ones throughout Scripture share another quality that is rarely discussed in the way it deserves to be. They were all, at some point in their story, hidden, not forgotten, not abandoned, hidden. Joseph in the pit and then in the prison. David in the wilderness running from a king who wanted him dead. Esther in a palace where her true identity was concealed until the moment required it to be revealed. John the Baptist in the desert until his voice was needed in the public square. Hiddenness was never the conclusion. It was always the preparation. It was always the space in which something was being formed that could not have been formed in the spotlight. If you have been feeling hidden, if you have been feeling like the world has moved on and built things and celebrated people, while you have been somewhere quiet and unremarkable and unnoticed, then hear this with everything in you. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are in the exact phase of the pattern that always precedes the emergence. The hiddenness is not punishment. It is protection. It is God keeping something sacred out of the reach of forces that would corrupt or diminish it before it is ready to be released. What is being formed in you right now, in the waiting, in the desert, in the ordinary days that feel like nothing is happening, is not nothing. It is the thing that will make everything that comes next make sense. It is the depth from which the roots of your assignment grow. Roots that must go deep enough to hold the weight of what is coming. Roots that can only develop in the hidden season. Roots that the spotlight would have scorched before they had the chance to reach the water table. Stay in the formation. Do not despise the desert. Do not measure the value of this season by what it looks like from the outside, because from the outside, every desert looks the same. Sand and silence and the absence of everything that the world calls progress. But from the inside, if you are paying attention, if you are staying oriented toward the source, something is moving. Something is shifting at a level beneath the surface. Something is being built in the secret place that will one day be so undeniably evident that even the people who overlooked you will not be able to look away. The wings are not broken. The current is still rising. And the moment of release is closer than the length of the waiting has made it feel. Something is shifting in you right now, and it has been shifting since the moment this message began. Not because of the words themselves, but because words spoken in alignment with truth carry a frequency of their own. and something in you that was designed to recognize that frequency is responding. You can feel it, even if you do not yet have a language for exactly what it is. A settling, a quiet opening. The sense that something which had been held very tightly for a very long time is beginning, slowly and carefully, to release. This is not an accident. This is not the random emotional response of someone who simply needed to hear something encouraging today. What is happening in you right now is the beginning of an alignment that has been in preparation far longer than this conversation. The desert seasons described in the last movement of this message were not simply historical illustrations of a spiritual principle. They were a mirror held up to the specific geography of your own life, the specific terrain you have been walking, the specific quality of silence you have been living inside. And if something in you recognized itself in those stories, if something in you said, yes, that is where I am, then what follows from this moment carries a weight that is proportional to the length of the waiting. Because here is what the chosen ones who emerged from their desert seasons share in common. Every single one of them, at some point before the breakthrough became visible, made a decision in the hidden place. Not a decision that anyone else could see or validate or applaud. A private, quiet, deeply personal decision to stop fighting the process and start trusting the one who was overseeing it. To stop measuring the season by what it looked like from the outside and start paying attention to what was being built on the inside. To stop demanding that God explain the timeline and start receiving what the timeline was producing. That decision is available to you right now. Not next week when circumstances improve. Not after the situation resolves itself, or the relationship heals, or the finances stabilize, or the clarity finally arrives through some external change. Right now, in exactly the conditions you are currently in, the decision is available. And it costs nothing except the willingness to stop gripping what you have been gripping and open your hands to what is already moving toward you. The chosen ones do not get a preview of the full plan before they are asked to take the first step. Abraham left for a land he had not yet seen, moving on the strength of a promise that had no external evidence to support it at the time he received it. Ruth left everything familiar and walked into a future that, from any reasonable human assessment, offered her very little security, and discovered that the path she chose led to a lineage she could not have imagined from where she was standing. When she made the choice, Gideon was hiding in a winepress, frightened and invisible, when the angel arrived and called him a mighty warrior, speaking not to what Gideon currently was, but to what God already saw completed in him. God does not call you based on your current condition. God calls you based on what He placed in you before your current condition existed. The assignment was written before the desert. The gifts were sealed before the fog. The frequency was set before the world began its long project of covering it over. And what the next step of this journey requires from you is not a complete resolution of every doubt or a full return of every confidence that the hard seasons eroded. It requires only the willingness to move in the direction of what you were made for. One step, one decision, one act of orientation toward the life that was always supposed to be yours. Now, some of you have been hearing this message, and something specific has been rising up alongside the truth of it. A practical knowing that the gap between where you are and where you were designed to operate is not only a spiritual matter, but also a very real, very physical matter of how your brain has been functioning. The fog is real. The sense that your thinking is muted, that your creativity is blocked, that the clarity that should be native to a mind like yours has been obscured by years of accumulated noise and stress and chronic overstimulation. That is a real and addressable condition. And the pathway back to your native frequency, the 7-minute daily practice developed through decades of research by Dr. James Rivers, is sitting in the pinned comment below this video and in the description. Available right now for $39, with a 90-day guarantee that removes every financial risk from the decision. You do not have to choose between the spiritual truth of this message and the practical tool being offered through it. They are not in competition. They are, in fact, pointing at the same reality from two different angles. The God who designed your brain designed it to operate at a specific frequency. The research that identified that frequency and built a pathway back to it is not separate from the divine design. It is a confirmation of it. When you take 7 minutes each day to restore your brain to the theta and gamma state it was built for, you are not doing something secular as opposed to something sacred. You are stewarding the neurological instrument through which your calling will be expressed. You are maintaining the channel through which the still small voice has always been trying to reach you. The link is there. The decision is yours. And whatever you choose, the truth of what has been spoken over you in this message does not change. Before we move forward, I want to take a moment to speak about something that matters deeply to everyone behind this channel. This space was not built on a business model. There are no advertisements running behind these messages. No algorithm-driven content strategy designed to maximize engagement at the expense of authenticity. This channel exists because there are chosen ones all over the world who are in desert seasons, who are carrying the weight of callings they cannot yet see the fulfillment of, who need a space where they are spoken to with honesty and with genuine spiritual investment rather than with entertainment dressed up as encouragement. What you may not know is that this channel is no longer monetized through YouTube. The revenue that most channels rely on to sustain their work is not available here. And yet the work continues because the people who find their way to these messages deserve to have them keep coming. Every video produced here represents a real investment of time, research, prayer, and creative energy, offered without the financial infrastructure that most content creators take for granted. If this message has genuinely touched something in you today, if it has named what you have been carrying or opened something that felt sealed, and you feel in your heart that you want to support this work continuing, there is a donate link in the pinned comment and in the description of this video. This channel is sustained entirely by people who believe that what is being built here matters, that these words should keep reaching chosen ones who are still in the middle of their desert and have not yet heard someone speak their name into that silence. Every contribution, no matter how small, is received with genuine gratitude and is felt as the act of partnership that it is. And if this is not a season where giving financially is possible for you, please hear this clearly. Your presence here is already meaningful. Leaving a comment below about where this message found you today, what it stirred, what it named, costs nothing and does something real. It tells other chosen ones who are scrolling past this video that what is inside it is worth stopping for. Sharing this message with one person in your world who is in a hard season is an act of genuine generosity that may shift the trajectory of their week, or their month, or their year. If this video has spoken to you, please like it right now. That one small action carries this message further than it would reach on its own, and it tells us that what we are building here is landing where it was meant to land. Subscribe if you have not already, so that what comes next finds you the moment it is released. Because the conversation we are in the middle of is building towards something, and each section of it is designed to carry you further into what you were made for. You are not here consuming something passive. You are in an active moment of becoming, and the becoming does not pause between videos. It is happening right now, in the listening, in the receiving, in the quiet decisions you are making in the interior of your own life about who you are and what you were put here to do. The next movement of this message is going to take you somewhere that the desert could only point toward. Stay with it. There is a woman whose story you need to hear. Not because it is dramatic in the way the world defines drama, not because it ends with a sudden reversal of fortune that looks miraculous from the outside, but because it is the kind of story that recognize in their bones the moment they encounter it. The kind of story where the miracle is not primarily in the external circumstance, but in the interior transformation that made the external possible. She had spent 14 years building a life around competence. She was good at what she did, reliable, professional, capable in every measurable way. People around her respected her performance, even when they could not quite connect with the person performing it. She had constructed her existence with such careful precision that from the outside it looked like someone who had it together, and from the inside it felt like someone who had been holding their breath for so long they had forgotten what it felt like to exhale. 14 years of being functional, 14 years of being fine, and underneath the fine, a current of longing so persistent and so quiet that she had almost stopped hearing it, almost convinced herself it was not really there. Then came the season that broke the structure open, not through a single catastrophic event, but through the slow, patient accumulation of losses that did not individually seem large enough to justify the weight they collectively produced. A relationship that ended. A professional opportunity that dissolved in her hands after she had given everything she had toward it. A friendship that revealed itself to be less than what she had believed it to be. None of these things were tragedies in the global sense, but they arrived close enough together that the careful architecture of her constructed life developed fractures, and through the fractures, everything she had been holding together began to shift. She told the story afterward of a specific night, 3 in the morning, sitting on the edge of her bed in the dark, not crying, not praying, not doing anything that would have looked purposeful from the outside. Just sitting. And in that sitting, something happened that she said she still could not fully explain in rational terms. The silence in the room changed quality. Not the sound of the silence, but the texture of it. It became, in her words, inhabited, as though the space that had felt empty was suddenly, unmistakably, full of a presence that was not threatening and was not demanding and was not asking her to perform or explain or justify anything at all. It was simply there, witnessing, knowing, staying. She sat in that presence for a long time, and when she finally spoke, it was not a prayer in any form she had been taught. It was 7 words spoken out loud into the dark of her bedroom. If you are still there, I am here. That was all. No theological precision, no formal petition, no carefully constructed request, just the most honest thing she had been able to say in years, offered into a silence that she was no longer entirely sure was empty. 3 months later, she described what had begun to shift not as a series of external events, though those came too, but as a fundamental reorientation of her interior life. The way she moved through her days changed. The quality of her attention changed. The things that had felt urgent and heavy began to settle into their actual proportions, and the things she had been too busy and too defended to notice began to surface with a clarity that surprised her. She said it was as though something had been cleaning the lens through which she experienced her own life, and she had not known how clouded it had become. until she began to see through it clearly again. This is what the genuine encounter with the living God does. It does not always arrive with wind and earthquake and fire, as the story of Elijah confirmed. It arrives in the thin silence, in the inhabited dark, in the moment when the performance finally drops and what remains is simply you unguarded and the one who made you unchanged. And what happens in that encounter is not a transaction. It is a restoration. Not of circumstances first, but of the person who will eventually navigate those circumstances from a completely different interior foundation. The Book of Psalms, chapter 139, verse 1 through 3, carries the words of David in a moment of profound personal reckoning. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. What David is articulating is not merely a theological proposition about divine omniscience. He is describing the experience of being fully known and discovering that the knowing is not followed by rejection. That every hidden thing, every shameful corner, every carefully concealed fracture in the architecture of the self has been seen completely and met not with condemnation, but with a knowledge so intimate and so patient that it can only be called love. You have been known that completely your entire life, in the desert, in the fog, in the 14 years of competent performance, covering a persistent longing, in the 3 a.m. moments when the structure dropped away and you were left with nothing but the most undefended version of yourself. You have been known in all of it, searched, seen, accompanied, not from a distance that required your circumstances to look a certain way before the presence would draw near, but from an intimacy so complete that it has never required your best days to manifest. It has been equally present in your worst ones. This is the truth that the desert seasons are designed to teach, not through instruction, but through experience. You cannot learn in the comfortable seasons what you can only discover in the stripped ones. The knowing that God is present when everything is working is a belief. The knowing God is present when everything has fallen away is a different category of knowing entirely. It is the kind of knowing that becomes load-bearing in your life. The kind you can build on. The kind that does not shift when the next storm arrives because it was forged in a storm and came out unbroken. The testimonies of the chosen ones who have walked through their desert seasons and emerged carry a quality that is immediately recognizable to anyone who has ears to hear it. It is not the triumphalism of someone who escaped difficulty. It is the settled authority of someone who went all the way through it and discovered that the one who promised to be present was exactly where he said he would be. Every single time, without exception, in the places that looked most abandoned, in the moments that felt most silent, in the seasons that seemed most to contradict every promise that had been spoken over their lives. That authority is being formed in you right now, not as a future possibility, but as a present reality taking shape beneath the surface of everything you can currently see. The formation is happening. The roots are going deeper than you know. The interior landscape that will one day support the full weight of what you were made to carry is being prepared with a precision and a care that far exceeds anything you could have engineered for yourself through the force of your own determination. There is another woman whose story belongs here alongside the first. She had tried everything the spiritual marketplace offered for the disconnection she felt in her inner life. Books that promised transformation. Retreat experiences that produced temporary shifts that faded within weeks of returning to ordinary life. practices that engaged her intellect without ever quite reaching the place in her that most needed to be reached. She described herself as someone standing outside a room. She could see through the window, watching warmth and light that she could not access, no matter how many techniques she applied to the problem of the locked door. What changed for her was not a new technique. It was a moment of surrender so complete that it stopped being a spiritual practice and became something more like a dissolution. She stopped trying to feel the right thing and simply told the truth about what she actually felt. She stopped performing the posture of faith and admitted out loud to the God she was not sure was listening that she was exhausted by her own striving and had nothing left to offer except her honesty. And the door, which had never actually been locked from the outside, opened. What she discovered on the other side was not a feeling. It was a presence. Stable, consistent, entirely unimpressed by her performance and entirely undiminished by her failure to perform. A knowing that had been waiting with infinite patience for her to stop pushing against the door and simply allow it to open. That presence has been waiting for you with the same patience. It has not grown tired of the waiting. It does not track your consistency or grade your effort. It simply remains, as it has always remained, exactly where it promised to be. You have come further in this message than you realize. Not just through the words, but through something that has been happening in the interior of your life while the words were moving. There is a settling that has been taking place beneath the surface of your attention. A quiet reorganization of something that had been disordered for a long time. And if you pause right now and check in with yourself honestly, you will notice that something feels different than it did when this message began. Not dramatically different, not transformed in the spectacular visible way that the world tends to associate with breakthrough, but different in the way that a room feels different after someone has opened a window that had been sealed shut for a season. The same room, the same furniture, but something is moving in it now that was not moving before, and the air has changed quality in a way that is subtle and unmistakable at the same time. This is how the real work happens in the life of a chosen one. Not in the sudden reversal that everyone can see and photograph and turn into a testimony that fits neatly into 3 minutes, but in the invisible, interior, incremental shifts that accumulate over time into a transformation so complete that one day you look back and realize you are no longer the same person who began the journey, and you cannot point to a single dramatic moment as the cause, because the cause was 1,000 quiet moments exactly like this one. 1,000 instances of choosing to stay with the truth rather than retreating into the comfortable lie. 1,000 decisions to remain oriented toward the source even when the source felt distant. 1,000 mornings of getting up and moving in the direction of what you were made for, even when the evidence of that making felt thin. The crown that is yours was not manufactured in the spectacular moments. It was forged in the ordinary ones, in the days that felt like nothing, in the seasons that looked from the outside like stagnation and felt from the inside like the slowest, most grueling kind of forward movement possible. The chosen ones who wear their authority most naturally are not the ones who arrived at it easily. They are the ones who stayed in the process long enough for the process to do its full work in them, long enough for the impatience to be refined into trust, long enough for the performance to be burned away and replaced by something that does not require an audience to remain real. Long enough for the identity that God assigned before birth to become more foundational than the identity that circumstances and opinions and seasons of failure tried to write over the top of it. There is a quality that every chosen one who reaches the fullness of their assignment carries, and it is not the quality the world tends to celebrate or even recognize immediately. It is not charisma, though it may express itself through charisma. It is not talent, though it will move through talent. It is not even faith in the way the word is commonly used, as though faith were a feeling of spiritual confidence that some people have more naturally than others. The quality is something quieter and more durable than any of those things. It is a settled knowing of whose you are, not who you are in terms of gifts or calling or potential or destiny. Though all of those things are real and they matter, but whose you are. The belonging that precedes the assignment. The identity that exists before the performance begins and remains after the performance ends. The unshakable, unchallengeable, unconditional reality that you were made by someone who does not make mistakes, for a purpose that was not an afterthought, and that nothing in the history of your life, no failure, no detour, no desert season, no moment of profound personal disappointment, has altered that reality by a single degree. The book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 38 and 39, says it with a comprehensiveness that leaves no category of experience outside its reach. For I am sure that neither death nor life, nor angels nor rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. Paul wrote those words from inside his own desert, from inside seasons of imprisonment and beating and shipwreck and rejection, and the particular loneliness of someone who had given everything to a calling that cost him nearly everything in return. He was not writing from a comfortable position of spiritual comfort. He was writing from the middle of the fire. And what he was saying was that even here, even in this, even in the very worst that any created thing can bring against the chosen one, the love that chose you first has not moved, cannot move, will not move. It is the one fixed point in every shifting landscape you will ever walk through. You are held by that love right now. Not as a theological concept to be believed, but as a living reality to be inhabited. And the degree to which you allow that reality to become the foundation of how you move through your days, rather than a comfort you reach for when things get hard, is the degree to which the authority of the chosen one begins to express itself naturally through everything you do. Right now, in the comments below this video, I want you to type the words "I am held." Just those 3 words, not as a religious performance, not as a declaration you are making from a place of complete certainty and unwavering confidence, but as the most honest thing you can say in this moment, as a chosen one who has been walking through a desert and who has just been reminded that the walking was never done alone. I am held is not a statement about your circumstances. It is a statement about the reality beneath your circumstances, the foundation that was there before the desert began and will remain standing long after the desert gives way to what comes next. Type it now, and as you do, know that every other chosen one reading that comment in this space is being reminded of the same truth by your willingness to declare it. The crown that belongs to you was not earned through your best performance. It was given before you had performed anything at all, sealed over your life in a moment before time began its counting, and it has been waiting for you to grow into the fullness of what it represents. Not waiting impatiently, not waiting with the conditional energy of someone who might withdraw the offer if you take too long. Waiting the way only perfect love can wait, with complete certainty about the outcome and complete patience with the process, with the joy that is already present in the anticipation of the moment. When you fully understand what was always true about you, The people around you are about to encounter a version of you they have not seen before. Not because you are going to change in ways that make you unrecognizable, but because the things that were always true about you are going to become increasingly impossible to ignore or contain. The clarity that is native to your frequency. Once your brain is operating at the level it was designed for, does not stay quietly in the background. It begins to express itself in the quality of your thinking, the quality of your decisions, the quality of your presence in the spaces you occupy. People will notice something different about you before they can articulate what it is, because what they will be perceiving is not a change of personality, but an increase of frequency. And frequency, when it rises to its designed level, is something that others feel before they understand. The chosen one was never meant to be ordinary. Not because ordinary people are less valuable, but because the assignment requires an unusual level of clarity and creativity and spiritual perception that the ordinary frequency simply cannot sustain. What is being restored in you through this process is not a superpower. It is a birthright, the natural operating state of a mind designed for a specific purpose, returning to the conditions that purpose requires. Your crown is not coming. It is not in the mail. It is not waiting at the end of a performance checklist that you have not yet completed. It is already above you, already yours, already written over every version of your future. What is happening now is simply the process of you growing tall enough, strong enough, rooted enough to wear it the way it was always meant to be worn. And the wearing of it begins not with a dramatic public moment, but with a private interior one. With a decision made in the quiet of your own life that you are done minimizing what you were made for, done apologizing for the frequency you carry, done fitting yourself into spaces that were never designed to hold the fullness of what God placed in you. That decision is available right now. There is a threshold that every chosen one must cross, and it is different from every other threshold they have encountered in their life up to that point. It is not a threshold of achievement, where effort accumulates to a point that produces a measurable result. It is not a threshold of knowledge, where enough understanding finally clicks into place and produces clarity. It is not even a threshold of faith, in the conventional sense, where spiritual discipline and religious consistency finally generate the breakthrough that has been sought. It is something older and deeper and more fundamental than any of those categories, and the chosen ones who have crossed it describe it in remarkably similar terms, regardless of the specifics of their individual stories. They describe it as the moment they stop negotiating with their own calling. You know what that negotiation sounds like because you have been conducting it in one form or another for longer than you may want to acknowledge. It sounds like, I will fully step into what I was made for when the circumstances are more favorable, when the finances stabilize, when the relationships heal, when the confidence returns, when the fog clears, when I feel more ready, when the external signs are clear enough that the risk of moving feels manageable. The negotiation is not dishonest. It is not a sign of weak faith or insufficient desire. It is the entirely understandable response of a person who has been hurt by hope before, who has moved towards something with everything they had and watched it not materialize in the way they expected, and who has learned through experience to protect themselves from the particular pain of that specific disappointment. But the negotiation has a cost that compounds over time. Every season spent waiting for conditions to become favorable is a season in which the gifts are lying dormant. The frequency is running below its designed level, and the assignment is sitting unclaimed while the world continues without the specific contribution that only you were built to make. And the longer the negotiation continues, the more familiar the territory of the threshold becomes, and the more the act of standing at the edge of what you were made for begins to feel like the default state rather than a temporary pause before the crossing. Heaven is not looking at your circumstances to determine when you are ready. Heaven is looking at your willingness. And willingness is not a feeling. It is not the absence of fear or the presence of confidence or the resolution of every legitimate concern that stands between you and the full expression of your calling. Willingness is simply the decision to move in the direction of what you were made for, while all of those things are still unresolved, trusting that the resolution will come through the movement rather than before it. Consider the moment in the Gospel of John, chapter 11. When Jesus stands outside the tomb of Lazarus, he knows what he is about to do. The power that will call a dead man back to life is already present, already fully available, already certain in its outcome. And yet, before he commands the stone to be rolled away, before he speaks the words that will reverse 4 days of death, he weeps. The Son of God, standing at the threshold of one of the most dramatic miracles recorded in Scripture, stops and weeps with the people who are grieving, and the onlookers say to each other, "See how he loved him." Not see how powerful he is, not see how certain he is of what is about to happen. See how he loved him. The God who has been overseeing every season of your life, including the desert ones, including the ones that felt like tombs rather than thresholds, is not unmoved by what they cost you. The waiting was not administered from a distance by a God who was indifferent to its weight. Every day of the desert was accompanied by a presence that felt what you felt, that knew the specific texture of your particular longing, that held the grief of your unfulfilled potential not as an administrative matter to be resolved on a divine timeline, but as something personally, intimately known, and genuinely felt. See how he loved you. That is the truth behind every season that seemed to contradict it. And then the stone was rolled away, and then the voice spoke, and what had been sealed in the darkness for 4 days walked out into the light, still wrapped in the grave clothes of everything it had been through, but alive, undeniably, and irreversibly alive, in a way that no amount of subsequent difficulty could undo. Because what resurrection produces is not the restoration of the previous life. It is the beginning of a life that death itself has already tried and failed to hold. And there is an authority in that kind of life that nothing can replicate through any other means. You are standing at a tomb right now. Not the tomb of a person, but of a version of yourself, of a season, of a way of moving through the world that served its purpose and has now run its course. And the voice that spoke to Lazarus is speaking to the very things in you that the desert seasons covered over, and the years of running below frequency obscured, and the accumulated weight of disappointment and deferred hope buried under layers that were never meant to be permanent. Come out. That is the command. Not when you are ready, not when the circumstances support it, not when the grave clothes have been removed and everything looks presentable. Come out first, and the unwrapping happens in the company of the community that is gathered to witness what God is doing. The book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3 says this, "For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end, and it will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay." Habakkuk wrote those words in a season of profound national crisis, in a moment when everything visible contradicted the promises that had been spoken over the people of God. When the evidence of the eyes and the evidence of the faith were so far apart that maintaining the vision required a quality of trust that could not be manufactured through ordinary human effort. And into that contradiction, the word came, the Vision has an appointed time. It is moving toward you even when it appears to be standing still. The slowness you perceive is not delay. It is the precision of a timing that is calibrated to something larger than your current view allows you to see. Your vision has an appointed time. The things that were spoken over your life before you were born into the conditions that seem to contradict them have not expired. They have not been revised in response to the length of the waiting, or the depth of the desert, or the number of times the circumstances seem to suggest that a different outcome was more likely. The vision is still moving. The appointment is still kept. The time is still coming, and from the perspective of the one who said it, is not late. It has never been late. It is arriving with the precision of a God who has never once missed an appointment he made. What the chosen ones who have crossed the threshold of negotiation discover on the other side is not that everything became easy. It is not that the obstacles disappeared, or the opposition quieted, or the path became suddenly clear and smooth and obvious. What they discover is something more durable than ease. They discover that when you are moving in alignment with what you were made for, the resources available to you are different in quality from what was available when you were standing still. The doors that open are not the doors you would have chosen if you had been the one doing the choosing. The connections that form are not the ones you would have engineered through your own networking and effort. The provision that arrives comes from directions you were not watching, through channels you had not identified, at moments that are slightly too precisely timed to be attributed to anything other than the coordination of a God who was already at work in the outcome before you took the first step toward it. This is the life that has been waiting for you on the other side of the threshold. Not a life without challenge or difficulty or seasons that require everything you have, but a life in which the challenges are the right size for the person you were designed to be. And the difficulty is the kind that produces something real rather than merely depleting something finite. And the seasons that require everything you have discover that what you have, when operating at your designed frequency, is far more than what the years of running below it led you to believe. The negotiation ends here, not because the conditions have finally become favorable. They have not. Not because the fear has finally resolved itself. It has not. The negotiation ends here because you have been shown, through everything this message has carried, that the one who called you has never stopped calling, and the assignment that was written over your life before it began has never been rewritten, and the frequency you carry is not a liability to be managed, but a gift to be released into a world that is waiting, whether it knows it or not, for exactly what you were built to bring. The threshold is not ahead of you. You are standing on it right now. You are not the same person who pressed play at the beginning of this message. Something has moved in you, quietly and irrevocably, through every section of what has been spoken here, and the movement is real, even if you cannot yet fully articulate what shifted or name precisely where the change took root. That is how the deepest work happens, not with fanfare, not with a feeling so overwhelming that it demands to be noticed, but with the quiet, steady, unmistakable sense that something that was crooked has been straightened, something that was sealed has been opened, and something that had been waiting with extraordinary patience has finally been given permission to begin. You came into this message carrying the contradiction of the chosen one, tired but called, weak but anointed, invisible to the world but fully seen by heaven. And everything that has unfolded since that opening has been moving toward a single point, a convergence of the spiritual truth of who you are and the practical reality of what is available to you right now, in this moment. in this exact season, with every limitation and every resource and every question still unresolved exactly as they currently stand. The point is not a destination you are still traveling toward. It is where you are standing right now. You are already in the moment that everything before it was preparing you for. The desert seasons were not punishment. They were preparation. The fog was not evidence of abandonment. It was the accumulated interference of a world that was never designed to accommodate the frequency you carry. The waiting was not delay. It was the precision of a timing calibrated to something larger than your current view allowed you to see. And the threshold you have been standing at, the one where the negotiation with your own calling kept finding reasons to pause before the crossing, that threshold is beneath your feet right now. You are already on it. The only question that remains is whether you will look down and recognize the ground you are standing on. Before we reach the final words of this message, I want to do something that feels right and necessary. I want to pray with you. Not a formal prayer performed for the benefit of the listening, but an honest one spoken from the same place of genuine need and genuine trust that every chosen one in Scripture prayed from when they stood at their own threshold. Father, the person receiving this message right now has been carrying something heavy for a long time. You know the specific weight of it, the texture of it, the particular way it has pressed against their chest in the quiet moments when there was nothing left to distract them from it. You know every desert day and every 3 in the morning moment, and every season that looked from the outside like nothing was happening, while something irreplaceable was being formed on the inside. You have been present in all of it, not watching from a distance, but accompanying, sustaining, holding together what would have come apart without your hand underneath it. Right now, in this moment, speak to the places in this chosen one that the words of this message have touched, but not yet fully reached. Go deeper than language can go. Restore the frequency that was placed in them before the world began its work of covering it over. Remind them at a cellular level, in the place where identity is not a belief but a knowing, that they were not made for the diminished life, that the fog was never their native state, that the waiting was always moving toward something, and that the something is closer now than it has ever been. Let them feel in this moment the weight of the crown that has always been above them, and give them the courage to stop negotiating with the calling that was written over their life before they had drawn a single breath. Let this be the moment, Lord, not a moment they look back on as the beginning of another cycle of almost. Let this be the actual moment, the real one, the one that changes the trajectory. In the name of the one who called Lazarus out of 4 days of death and is calling your chosen one out of every season that tried to bury what you placed in them. Amen. Now, from that place of prayer, I want to speak practically about what comes next. Because prayer and action are not opposites in the life of the chosen one. They are partners. Abraham prayed and then packed. Noah prayed and then built. Esther prayed and then walked through the door. The interior work and the exterior step belong together. And the step that is available to you right now is specific and concrete, and backed by the kind of evidence that removes every reasonable objection to taking it. The genius wave, developed through more than 30 years of neuroscientific research by Dr. James Rivers, is the practical tool that addresses at the level of your brain's actual frequency what this message has been addressing at the level of your spirit. 7 minutes a day, a precisely calibrated audio program that guides your brain back into the theta and gamma states it was designed to operate in. The states where creativity flows without force, where clarity arrives without strain, where The channel through which the still small voice has always been trying to reach you is finally clear enough to receive what has been there all along. The link to access it is in the pinned comment below this video and in the description. $39, 90 days of complete protection, and a pathway home to the frequency that was always yours. Do not let this moment pass without taking the step that is in front of you. The door that is open right now has a season on it. The price available through the pinned link is not permanent, and the access window at this level of investment will close. The chosen ones who move when the moment arrives are the ones whose stories change. The ones who wait for a more convenient season discover that convenience has a way of arriving just after the window closes. Now, before this message reaches its final breath, I want to speak to you about this channel and what it means to everyone behind it. This channel is no longer monetized. There are no advertisements, no YouTube revenue, no financial infrastructure supporting what is built here. And yet we choose to continue because we believe with everything in us that these messages need to keep reaching the chosen ones who are still in their desert, still in their fog, still standing at a threshold they have not yet crossed, still needing someone to speak their name into the silence and remind them of what has always been true about them. We believe that the right message, reaching the right person at the right moment, changes everything. And we have seen it happen enough times to keep showing up and building, even without the financial support that most channels take for granted. If this message has been that message for you today, if something in what was spoken here landed in a place that needed exactly this, and you feel led to help us keep this work going, there is a donate link in the pinned comment and in the description of this video. Every contribution, regardless of size, is received with genuine gratitude and genuine prayer. We are thankful for every act of support, every prayer offered on behalf of this work, and every share that carries these messages further than they would reach on their own. You are not just supporting a channel. You are partnering with every chosen one who will find their way here after you and receive what you received today. And if giving is not possible in this season, please hear clearly that your presence here is already a gift. Like this video right now if it is spoken to you, because that one action carries this message in front of more chosen ones who are still searching for it. Share it with someone in your world who is in a hard season, someone who is tired but called, someone who needs to be reminded that the desert is not the conclusion. Subscribe if you have not already, so that what comes next finds you the moment it is released. And leave a comment below, even just a few honest words about where this message found you, because your words in that comment section become part of what the next chosen one reads when they arrive here wondering if they are alone. You are not alone. You have never been alone. The room has always been fuller than it looked from the inside of your particular desert. Go back to the beginning of this message if you need to. Let it move through you again at the places where it touched something that is not yet fully open. Stay with the prayer. Stay with the truth. Stay with the knowing that what was written over your life before it began has not been rewritten by anything that has happened since. The angels are no longer in shock. They are watching with something that looks very much like anticipation for what you are about to do next. Chosen one, you have heard everything that needed to be said in this season. The frequency is yours. The crown is yours. The calling has never been revoked, and the love that chose you first has never wavered. What you do with this moment is between you and the God who brought you here. But know this, you were not brought here to leave the same. Something has already changed. Something has already moved. Trust the movement. Take the step. and know that every single word spoken in this message was carried toward you by a love that has been pursuing you since before you had a name. Go now and go differently than you came.